Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Let's take a look at customizing your Finder sidebar. MACMOST is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 2,000 supporters. Go to MACMOST.com/Patreon. There you can read more about it, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. Now, the Finder sidebar is one of the most important tools that you'll use to get around in the files and folders on your Mac and also to access them inside of apps. So it's really important to make sure that you spend some time customizing it to make sure the things you access the most are there. So the Finder sidebar is what you see here on the left. And there are 4 sections: the Favorites section, iCloud, Locations, and Tags. So to customize this, the place to start is to go to Finder Settings and then go to the Sidebar tab here. And then you're going to see each of these 4 sections represented here with a bunch of checkboxes. So this is where you can turn on and off some of these items. So let's start with the Favorite section. The Favorite section can include regular folders. Like, for instance, there's your Music folder, your Pictures folder, and your Downloads folder. But it can also include some special items like Recents and AirDrop. Recents is not a location at all, but simply a list of your most recently opened files. And AirDrop is a special option where you can quickly access other devices nearby to send a file to them. So you can send a file to your iPhone or to somebody else's Mac and so on. But the rest of these just represent locations. So for instance, if I wanted to add my Pictures folder to the left sidebar, I can just check this box and you can see how it's added there under Favorites. I can also remove something. So for instance, if I don't find them using AirDrop much, I can remove it and it saves space there on the left. Now, if you're not using iCloud, you're also going to see Desktop and Documents here under Favorites. But if you are using iCloud, those 2 items will be here under iCloud, and also a checkbox for the top level of iCloud Drive and a checkbox for things shared with you using iCloud Drive, which again isn't a location. It's kind of like Recents. It just lists items that happen to be shared with you through iCloud Drive so you can see exactly what those are. Now, under Locations, this is talking more about physical locations like other hard drives, for instance. So you've got the top level of your Mac here, but you also have hard disks, so listing your Mac's hard drive, and you can see that here as the second item. You have external drives that you could list, and also, for instance, network things like other cloud storage services and other networked computers. So you can easily turn these on and off as well. Note that if you don't think you need to access these in the Finder sidebar, you can just turn all of these off. So if you uncheck everything here, not only does it empty out all of these, but it removes the entire Locations section. Just as if you would turn everything in iCloud off here, the entire iCloud section would disappear. Now, Tags, you can check recent tags and it'll automatically show you recently used tags here. We'll look at tags more in a minute. Now, without using Finder settings, you can manipulate a lot of what's here just by doing it directly in the sidebar. So for instance, if you want to reorder things like move pictures above download, you can just drag and drop like that. You can even move things between sections as long as it makes sense. So for instance, you can move Documents up to Favorites out of iCloud Drive. It's still going to show you your Documents folder, which is in iCloud Drive in this case. You've just decided to put it under Favorites instead of iCloud. But for instance, you couldn't move Pictures into iCloud because Pictures is a folder that's local to your hard drive. It's not part of iCloud. So it doesn't make sense to be able to move it from Favorites down to iCloud. If you want to remove any item from here, like let's get rid of Pictures, I can either drag it away until you see a little X, or I could Control click, right click, or 2-finger click on a trackpad on it right there, and I can remove from Sidebar. Now note that each of these sections can actually be closed and opened. For instance, Favorites here, you can see this little button to the right. It only appears if I move the pointer over it. I could close Favorites. So if you just see Favorites there and nothing under it, and you know there should be something there, simply click here to open it up. Now let's look at Tags. I need to open up Tags here to see it. I had it closed before, and I've got several tags listed. Remember, under Finder Settings, you can choose to have recent tags shown. So let's turn that off and only have the tags I want shown. To determine which tags are shown, go back into Finder Settings, but go to Tags. And then the checkboxes here on the right determine which ones are shown. So you can see this is why red, orange, and yellow are shown. If I want blue to be shown, I check that and you can see it appears there. So of course note that tags are not a location, but they're simply going to list files that have that tag. So if I select red, you can see all the files that have been tagged red. So if I wanted to have something more useful, like a name like work projects or something like that, I could actually assign a tag to any file to have it appear here. I can go into my documents folder, for instance, go here, and let's go to this file, and I could simply assign a tag like red to it. And now new.txt has that tag. So when I go to the red tags here, I'll see it there. So this is an easy way to access files in the sidebar, even if they're in different locations. All of the files tagged with the red will be shown here, even if they're in all sorts of different folders all over your hard drive. So how about adding your own custom folders to the sidebar? Well, you certainly can do that, and you should. If there's a folder you use very often, simply drag that folder into the sidebar and stick it there. Don't drag it into something because that's indicating you want to move it into that location. But drag it between things. So I'll also move, say, this folder here right between these two. But remember, and this is very important, that these are not the actual folders. Notice here I've got the folder called current. The folder called current is actually in my documents folder. This is a shortcut to it. It's not the actual folder. So for instance, when I remove it from the sidebar, it doesn't delete it from its location. It's still where it was. This is just a shortcut to quickly be able to jump to that folder. So I'll give you some tips here. I'm going to start off by saying you should not only add folders to the sidebar that you use all the time, but don't be afraid to add and remove things on a regular basis. A lot of users want to simply get this to be perfect, something that they don't touch for years. But the best way to use this for productivity is don't be afraid to add a folder here, even if you're just going to be using it over the next few days, and then remove it when you're done with that project. Another tip is that you can rearrange not only the items within a section, but sections themselves. So for instance, say I were to have my documents folder here inside of iCloud Drive, and I wanted iCloud Drive, Documents, and Desktop, this whole section to be at the top. I could actually drag iCloud to the top here to rearrange the order of the sections. And as I mentioned before, you can actually use these as drop zones. So for instance, if I wanted to move something into one of these folders, then I could move this file into the current folder by dragging and dropping it into the sidebar. And then if I go to Documents here and look under Current, you could see that it has been moved there. And my last tip is the most important one because it makes the Finder sidebar so much more useful than just moving files and folders around here in the Finder itself. When you're in an app, like I'm in Pages right here, if you go to open a new file, you'll get the Open File dialog box. Notice that the sidebar is here on the left. So all of the items that you've added, they're going to be there as well. Since I added the current folder, I can easily, with one click, jump right to that folder, no matter where it's located. So this is why it's really important to have the actual folders you access all the time right here. And the same thing is true for saving. If you go to save a file, notice the sidebar is present there. So I can jump right to a specific folder as long as I've added it to my favorites. And even when you go to upload a file, like using this example page here, if you click one of those choose a file buttons or choose an image to upload, notice the upload window here also shows your favorites on the left. And note that if you don't actually see it here on the left, you can easily bring it up. Note that in the Finder, if you go to View, there is a menu item for Show and Hide Sidebar. So I can actually have the sidebar hidden in the Finder. And the keyboard shortcut for that is Control-Command-S. And that works in Open, Save, and Upload dialogs. So Control-Command-S, you can see hide the sidebar, and maybe you've accidentally done that, and you can easily bring it back using Control-Command-S as well. And here's one bonus tip, and that's for people that like the recents list here. This just lists recent files, but maybe it's not exactly what you want. Maybe you just want to see recent presentations, for example, or recent Pages documents. You can create your own items like this that aren't locations, but basically give you kind of search results here under Favorites. The way to do that is first do a search. Go to the location where you want to search. I'm going to go to the Documents folder. And instead of clicking here, I'm going to do Command F to start a search. And I'm going to set up my search. So in this case, the kind is Presentation. And note that the search area is set to Documents. So in my Documents folder, kind is Presentation. You could add other things as well. So for instance, I could say that the last open date is within the last 365 days or 1 year, for instance, to see the recent stuff, not old things. And I could see the results here. Now if I click Save, I could save this as a saved search, and it saves it in a special location in your library. Let me give it a good name like Recent Presentations. And Then I'm going to make sure that the checkbox here for Add to Sidebar is there. If I do Save, now I could see I've got recent presentations here. So I could be somewhere else and decide I want to go to see all my recent presentations, and I've got this handy item here under Favorites that isn't a location, but it's just a list of all of my recent presentations spread out throughout my entire Documents folder. And you can go in and control click on this and remove it, or you can show search criteria, for instance, and then update it. So I can do 180 days, for instance, and save it. And now it's changed. So it's only 180 days instead of 365. So even if you don't use these advanced tips, just take the time to put your most commonly accessed folders under Favorites in your sidebar. Remove items that you don't regularly go to, and then you'll find it helps you get to the files that you need the most often. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, click the thumbs up button below to let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.